Hello, everybody. Good afternoon if you are in the Eastern Standard Time, and good morning if you are in Pacific. Today is our lunch hour live, our 20-minute live, and I am Natalie Colillo, founder and CEO of Happy Healthy Women. If you didn't know that, and I am joined today by the amazing and beautiful Meg Heppner. Hello, Meg. Welcome.
Oh, hello. And I'm the one who has to say good morning because for us, it is still breakfast time. I'm so excited to be here this morning. I absolutely love these lives. I think it's such an incredible way to see like the depth that's in Happy Healthy Women and just how much wisdom and how many incredible women there are. So I absolutely love doing this.
Totally. Thank you. And I'm blown away. Like, speaking of the depth, I am just blown away on the daily by you amazing leaders. So thank you for being here with me. And for those who are tuning in for the first time, this is where I get to interview one of the incredible leaders within Happy Healthy Women and hear more about a topic that they are so passionate about. And so today we're talking, as I said, to Meg Heppner. She is our branch director in our South Surrey, BC branch. Here in Canada. She is also a life coach, and she is so amazing at helping people. It's like I'm just gonna let her share because it's an incredible way of explaining, the stuff that goes through our minds. And as women and as entrepreneurs, this is like constant, right? And we are able to release this stuff. So today we're talking about our stories and whether they serve us or they sabotage us. And so, Meg, I'm just going to jump right in. And I mean, you can share a little bit about yourself too, but, yeah, let's talk about this, like in terms of our stories and why this is such an important topic to you.
Yeah, no, awesome. I am so passionate about this story and I think that or this topic and I think this is such an important thing to dive into because we are subconsciously controlled by our stories. And because we're subconsciously controlled by our stories, we don't know why we're, behaving the way we're behaving. We don't know why we're doing the things that we're doing. And yet there's a story running back there that's literally directing us in all these different ways. And if we don't go back there and take a look at what is this story? Is this story beneficial to me? Is this the story I actually want? Et cetera, et cetera. We're going to find ourselves down the road somewhere going, oh, how did I get here? And how did my life end up like this? Right. And that's the work that I do. I have so many women coming to me at that stage of life where all of a sudden they go, I'm waking up to things I didn't realize were controlling me, and I am not as fulfilled and I'm not as joyful as I thought I would be at this point in time in my life. And what do I do? And the first step is always, let's dive into your story. Let's dive into what is the reality that you've been creating that maybe isn't the reality that's best for you.
Totally. And it's so interesting because I know this even from my own experience, is that we will be stuck in the story, as you said, subconsciously, yet trying to create a life that will never happen if we are stuck in that story. But we don't see it. We don't know it. Like it's just happening on autopilot. And so, I know that for lots of women entrepreneurs, we're stuck like banging our head against the wall thinking, my gosh, like I'm working so hard. Why is this not happening? Which is the story in itself, right? So
Totally.
what are some of the, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say absolutely 100%, right? And sometimes when we have like, because in each one of our stories, we've created an identity, right? So like we are the main character in our story. And so in our story, our main character is capable of doing some things, is not capable of doing other things, has these limiting beliefs, has these things that they think are available to them. And that main character has really been created as you have looked at your culture, as you've looked at your earliest caregivers, as you've looked at your peers, et cetera, you've built your character. And so what can so often happen is you go, okay, I'm going to be this amazing businesswoman. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to rock it. I'm going to be successful. But your character isn't that character. And that sounds sort of maybe silly, like, oh, like a character, but you are creating your character and you will never act outside of your character. Right. And so, and the other thing that people often don't think about is the fact that a story is powerful because it sets a trajectory, right? So as human beings, The reason we tell stories is because we are fearful of the future, right? That's just sort of a fact. As a human being, as part of the human species, we cannot predict the future, which makes us slightly anxious about the future. And so our stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, which means we can predict the future. Right? So, and again, this is all going on in our subconscious, but we go, if I am this character and I am telling this story, I can predict where this will take me. And so
Mhm.
our stories are so important, because if we have built a character that can't do certain things, and if we're telling a story that we can't do certain things, and it's all subconscious, the trajectory will take us right there. And I know that was true in my own life, because, and I know I shared this at the Prosper event, but the main story that I was telling myself as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult was what I call a love story, right? Where
Mhm.
I looked around at my culture and I saw everyone valued, marriage, everyone valued finding a significant other, everyone valued motherhood. And so I began to tell myself this story that that's who I needed to be. And lo and behold, that's what happened to me, right? I lived out that story. But then my kids grew up and went to school, and I went, oh, I don't know what to do with my story now, because I've sort of accomplished my story to the best of my ability. And I had that point where, there was going to be a plot twist. And
Yeah.
the plot twist to my story was I was going to become an entrepreneur. But my identity was not an entrepreneur. I did not have a good story for being an entrepreneur. So I struggled with like imposter syndrome and just feeling so incapable. And I would beat my head up against all these different things, not realizing that it was simply I had not built a great story for myself of what I was capable as an entrepreneur. And so I had to
Mm.
look at that. I had to have someone say to me, like, if you were to write this as a story, where would you be? And I was like, oh my word, I haven't got a hot clue. And the interesting thing, and then I'll stop because now I'm ranting. The
No, no.
interesting thing is, I read this quote, and it just, like, have you ever read those, right? And they just hit you in the heart. And it said this, it
Mhm.
said, and I mean, this is a quote from a long time ago, so you'll have to excuse the fact that it uses man. I know we're women, but it says, man does not fail because of a moral failing, but man fails because of a lack of an ideal. And I went, oh, that's so true. Like, we often go, the reason I'm not further in my business or in my life is there's something wrong with me. And it's like, most of the time, that's not that true. I mean, yes, we can all improve, but most of the time we fail because we don't really know where we're going. We don't have a story that we're working towards and building consciously. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah.
making sense? Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about this in spiritual terms, right? We're talking about the law of attraction, right? Like what we think about, we bring about.
Yes.
But if we're talking about like it's relatively the same thing. However, what I love about the work that you do is that you give people tools to break that story apart, because we can think about, you know, having a multi-million dollar business until we're blue in the face. But if we're still telling ourselves a story of, I'm going to try and get this quote right, but a coach that I worked with once said, you can't build a millionaire lifestyle on a minimum wage mindset. And I loved that. When it comes to growing ourselves or our lives or our businesses, like that ties into so many things,
Yeah.
right? And so how do we start to identify, Meg? Like, what are some ways? And of course, coaching is so important when it comes to this, because we can't see our own blind spots. But how can we start to identify and start to really look at, oh, wow, like I am telling myself the story of, you know, this isn't going to work, or I'm going to do this, but it's not going to turn into anything, or whatever. How can we start to identify that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a fantastic question. And you're right, right? Like, when we talk about our stories, we can talk about them very theoretically. And when we're talking about them theoretically, we go, "Oh, I could rewrite a story." The interesting thing about your stories is they're very emotional, right? Like, I've had
Mm,
people tell me their stories, and once they are aware of their stories, they start to just like, whew, because there's so much expectation and so much, just different emotions invested in it. And that's where a coach is helpful, right? To like take you through that and help you process those emotions. But there is easily a gauge that you can use that can help you go, oh, is this a story that's really beneficial to me, or should I look at this? And there's three gauges. So the first gauge is anxiety, right? It's the anxiety gauge. The story that I'm telling myself, is that story creating the emotions of anxiety, of fear, of uncertainty, of all of these sort of what we consider negative emotions, right? Because if it is, the chances are that story is keeping you trapped somehow, right? That story is clogging up your energy and making you more solid. So you want to ask yourself, one, what emotions is this bringing up? And in order to really find that, if it's hard to connect with that, because some of us are like, I don't know, what emotion is it? You can ask yourself a few questions. You can ask yourself, what are the thoughts that I'm having? Like, what's the language that I'm using around this? What's the focus? And what's my body doing? Right? So really going, okay, my language is, this is too hard. I don't know what, to do, et cetera, et cetera. My focus is on how everything will go to crap. And my body is just like, I'm hyperventilating, right? You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that is some fear and anxiety that I'm dealing with, right? So that's the first gauge. The second gauge that you can use is the fact gauge. And this one is always my favorite. One, it's the hardest. But two, it's also the funniest because when we start to dig into it, we think so much of our opinion is fact. It's actually quite cute. And so sometimes I'll try to pull apart my own stories and I'm like, dang it, I can't get rid of the opinion. I can't get rid of the, this is just what I think, because fact is very simple, right? The fact is just the bare bones of your story. And I talked about this at the Prosper event again, where like the idea of Canada, the fact is it's a land mass, right? Everything else is a story. Where the borders are, what we call it, what our laws are, what our rules are, everything else is story. The fact is Canada is a land mass. So you have to look at your story and literally go, what is just the facts, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
very often questions you can ask is, do I know everything there is to know about this? Or am I missing vital information? And 100% you will be missing vital information because we very seldom know the truth. We most of the time know a truth, right? But there's a lot more going on. So really digging into, what don't I know? The third gauge is the presence gauge, right? So when we're telling an unhelpful story, we're very seldom in the present. We are normally in the past or we are normally in the future, right? So we're either going, oh no, I know everything is terrible because it's always been terrible, or we're going, this is really terrible and now the future will be terrible. So those tend to be where we're at when we're telling an unhelpful story. So taking yourself right back into the present and going, just in this moment, what are the facts? Just in this moment, what's happening? Those are the best ways that you can gauge if your story is helpful or unhelpful.
That is amazing. Like, that is incredible knowledge that we can all just put into practice right away, right? And really start to see, like, what are our patterns and do they keep coming up? And if so, do we need that coaching, that help to actually finally move through these, right? Because as we said, they are standing in our way of actually achieving what it is that we want to be achieving. Am I right?
Yeah, totally. And even like if you look at COVID now, when COVID first came about and people were trying to figure out, what do I do with my business? My business is person to person. My business is, me meeting another human being. We very quickly began to tell a story that I can't translate, or many people did, not everyone, but I can't translate my business into an online business, right? That was a story that many people told themselves. And really that's a story that increases your anxiety, right? It limits you. That's not a fact. As we've learned, the longer that COVID goes on, the more things can be done online. It's actually quite amazing. And we're not really in the present, right? We're going, it's always been this way, so it should always be this way. And really, for all of us in business, we have a story of what a business looks like. And anything that doesn't fit into that story isn't possible for us, right? So for those of us who maybe had a brick and mortar, or those of us who, really love to meet with our clients, we immediately began to tell a story of, I can't do business now, right? And so really digging into that with the 3 gauges can help you go, oh no, wait a minute. I need to open myself up to a new story. Another story that I find a lot of women tell, I don't find men tell this story as much, and that's such an interesting fact to me, but women will often say, my clients won't pay that amount. Right? That's another story that women think is true. And again, what is the anxiety level in that? What is the fact level in that? And where are you in that? Where are you as far as presence? That's another story that I find a lot of entrepreneurs will tell, that it's really fun to dig into and just pull that apart.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I feel so strongly about right here in our conversation is that this is one of the most freeing things that anyone can do, is to identify the stories that are holding them back and weighing them down. And if they need help with that, amazing, like most people do, right? It's really hard to see that in ourselves. And then to break free of them. And like everything that you shared about stories that serve us just feel so expansive. Like they just feel so abundant. They're all about opening us up to more possibility and more expansion and more abundance. And so I love that it's not just about working through our emotions and identifying what's happening. It's also about releasing and moving forward and adopting new. Would you say that's true, Meg?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because this is what I find. I find that people that go into their story work, if they're willing to do that work, go through two stages. The first stage is, crap, that story wasn't real. Now I don't know what's real. And it feels a little bit uncomfortable, right? But if you can get past that hump, it goes straight into, oh crap, everything is available to me. So it's just that little bit of a bump, because our stories and our identity, they give us a lot of security. They make us feel very certain and safe and secure. So I do always tell people, listen, if you're going to dig into your story and you're going to do that work, the first emotion you might feel potentially is, wait, what? I don't know what's going on. And that scares people, which is why people retreat, right? People tend to go, oh, no, I don't want to do this work. But if you can push forward, oh my word, all of a sudden things you didn't think were possible are possible. All of a sudden you have this flow and this energy and this ease about you, because everything you're doing is creating this beautiful story of what's possible for you. So 100%. And that's an incredible thing to see when someone has been, I always say it's like when someone's been stuck in concrete and then all of a sudden, boom, they break that concrete away and it's like just them. And it's an incredible thing.
Yes, it's a whole new world, a whole new life waiting for you. I love that. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk quickly. We've got a few minutes left. How do you work with people, Meg? Like, obviously you help them through this work. Is it through groups? Is it one-on-one coaching? What goes on in the world of Meg Heppner?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are two options, which is so incredible because it makes it available for everyone. One, I do a workshop where we talk about your stories and pulling it apart. So you can do it in community, which is a really fun way to do it, because sometimes you see someone else going into their story and you go, I can so clearly see that's a story, but they can't see it. So then I must very clearly have a story as well. So doing things in community like that is really fun. So I'm putting on a workshop at the end of May, and you are so welcome to attend it and check that out, because that's a fantastic way as a group to be able to go through stories and work on that synergy. But then there are some stories that hurt, right? There are some stories that are painful and that, man, it brings up a lot, and then it's really a great opportunity to work with me one-on-one, and we can go through that a little bit more slowly and really take the time to process all of the emotions and to take care of, what the letting go process is, because for the painful stories, it can be a little bit more difficult. So 100%, you can work with me one-on-one, or you can come to the workshop and work as a group. Either one of those are fantastic options, and either one of those are a lot of fun.
And your website, again, just remind me, because I'm going to put it up here for people.
Yeah, fantastic. It's actually just my name. So www.megheppner.com is the easiest way to reach me. And of course, I'm on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook. And then if you're on Meetup, check out the South Surrey Happy Healthy Women branch. That's where you can find me and all the workshops, etc. I'm actually going to be putting it up this morning. So give me 5 seconds and then my workshop will be up.
Awesome. So for all those who are watching that feel like you could use a conversation, even just a conversation with Meg, to see if this is the right kind of work for you to finally set yourself free and break through these barriers, it's the right kind of work for everyone, if you ask me. So definitely touch base with meghepner.com, and go to our website at hhwglobal.com. You'll find her branch under branches, South Surrey with Meg, and check out the workshops she's got coming up. But thank you so much, Meg, and thank you everyone for watching. What an incredible leader you are. I'm just so blessed to have you in this community. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I love this opportunity. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. And for those of you who are wanting to also step into your leadership, you can do this too. So talk to me. And again, find our info at hhwglobal.com. Bye, everybody. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. See ya.